Um, I would like you, John, to just tell us a little bit about more about yourself and maybe about your journey. You can slowly get into how you engaged in substance use during adolescence.
Okay, yeah. So I guess the the way I kind of got into it, I guess, is just like I think it probably has to do with where I grew up. I grew up in the city, and that's one thing I've found that a lot of people I meet who didn't grow up in like an urban area kind of like can't believe the experiences I had as a kid, but it was pretty like normal to me. I got into like basically just drinking and smoking at a far younger age than most people do. I think most people either get into it very late in high school or in college, and I was like exposed to it when I was, I think, 12 or whatever age you are in sixth grade, 12, I think. Um, and Yeah, that's kind of just how it started. I went to middle school, sixth grade, and there was kids who drank on the weekends and would kind of just go like they would go, I don't know, I guess you call it party, like in the woods somewhere or something, or um, wherever you could to get away from adults, and just like get drunk and smoke cigarettes, smoke weed, um, and like it was pretty common, like where I went to school and like in the area that I grew up, like not just my school, other schools too, and there was kind of like a lot of kids doing it. It's kind of like
Mhm.
the traditional, I guess, divide that you get in high school and middle school at that age, where there's like the popular kids and then people who aren't, and it was always like, you know, when you're 12, 13, you kind of want to fit in, and my friends and some of the older kids who I kind of looked up to and thought were cool were doing that stuff, and I wanted to be accepted. I don't want to be you know pushed to the side, and so I started hanging out with kids that were getting into that, and when they would ask me like, do you want to drink, I
Mhm.
was like, I didn't want to get made fun of or anything, so I kind of just would do it, and that was how it started. Like I kind of just wanted to fit in, I guess. I wanted to like you know be one of the guys with my friends, and I think a lot of it too was kind of like I wanted to be accepted by like older kids, because I think I wasn't too worried, I guess, about my friends. Like I think they wouldn't have cared, but when I was in sixth grade, like I wanted the kids who were in eighth grade to think I was cool and respect me, and so yeah, I kind of just like did it, and yeah, it turned into like a constant thing, kind of like you know every weekend, and then by the time I was in eighth grade, it was especially in the summer, like it would be every day.
Mhm.
We would smoke, we would drink. I never really smoked weed much. I mean, I've tried it, but I honestly never really did that. I smoked cigarettes and drank alcohol, but that kind of I probably went off on a little tangent there at some point, but I think kind of covered what you were asking, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for this, for sharing that. And I know you mentioned, right, you kind of more wanted to be accepted by the older kids rather than your friends. Is that right? And how most of the smoking was done with cigarettes, but when it came to with smoking marijuana, did you face any pressure at all, or similar pressure like you did with the other substances, perhaps?
Yeah, I did. It was probably the same pressure. Maybe not as much as alcohol, but I definitely faced pressure with that. Like, um, yeah, I mean, people would push you to smoke, and I mean, like I said, I didn't really smoke weed, but
Mm,
even even though I didn't, like, it wasn't like I had to like resist it. It was constantly pushed on me. Like,
mm,
even when people knew that I wouldn't didn't smoke, it was like everyone would try to get me to smoke because they knew I didn't like it, and like um, I had to like really, I had to like work to shut it down all the time and
mm,
like not smoke. Same thing would have been the case with drinking if I didn't want to. Like, I, when everyone around you's doing it, it's kind of hard to turn it down. So, yeah.
right. Aaron, did you want to move on to the next question? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, John. I guess the big question that kind of ties in to kind of the work that the Summit Lab does and kind of the supports that they're creating for people. I guess we're curious as to what support systems you had in place, if any, and if not, what kind of supports do you wish that you maybe had that you didn't have access to?
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't really have much support compared to, I guess, what I think I probably would have like now at this age. And part of that, I don't know if it would have existed. I think it's probably a little bit of my fault because I didn't look for much help. I was, you know, I think even if I knew that I could get help at that age, I was terrified of getting in trouble for it. Because looking back, I'm like, the biggest issue with all of it is that I was smoking and drinking at that age. But when I was that age, I didn't think of that as the issue. I thought the issue was the risk of getting in trouble, of getting caught doing this. I was like, I didn't want my parents to know. I didn't want, whatever, coaches, teachers to find out what I was doing. Never mind like the police or anything like that. I just didn't want to get in trouble. And I honestly, I didn't think to ask anyone for support when I was stopping. Because I was like, I don't think anyone's gonna help me. I think they're like, if I didn't really go to my parents, I didn't tell them about it. Really, I didn't talk about it much. I just thought they'd get mad at me, you know. And I don't know if they would have. I mean, my parents are, I guess, they're older. They're a little more traditional, so I didn't think they'd be as accepting of that. I think they'd probably just get kind of pissed at me. So, yeah, I mean, I guess what support systems would I have wanted is, I guess, just, I guess, for people to be more helpful rather than looking for like punishment towards stuff like that. I think society lately is trending in the right direction with that. That people are kind of realizing that people who struggle with like substance abuse, and especially kids that are getting into it, like, doesn't mean you're a bad person or like whatnot. You just need to like if someone asks you to help them, fix something, it's getting mad at them or looking down upon them or punishing them for it's not going to help. It might do nothing. It might make it worse, but it's not helping it. And like, you probably need to just help people. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I guess I don't know what like kind of support system I would have wanted. I guess would have wanted people to be more accepting of it, because I felt like the reason I didn't have a support system is because I felt like I couldn't go to anyone for help. I guess, besides like a couple of my very close friends, but I mean, that's like, they're the same age as me. It's not, I wouldn't call them even like a support system as much as like, I just had maybe 2 or 3 friends that weren't drinking or smoking that I could kind of go to to like distract myself, I guess, so that I wouldn't, I would stop drinking or something. But I didn't really have any adults in my life that I went to or that supported me through that. So, yeah.
And so, I guess having had kind of a lack of support, or I should say, a lack of feeling of support, um, a lot of it sounds like a lot of the kind of recuperation and dealing with that substance use was independent. Is that right?
Yeah, it was pretty independent.
And so, like, so from it being more independent, I guess, how are you able to do that, and what kind of advice would you give to other youth maybe in this day and age that are maybe struggling with substance use?
Yeah, how I was able to do it, I honestly, I don't really know. I kind of like, my biggest thing that kind of started it, I guess, was that I scared myself out of continuing that by looking at people whose like lives it ruined. Um, Unfortunately, I knew a bunch of guys who, were older than me, who kind of, I wouldn't say their lives are ruined, I guess, but basically just ended up in positions that I didn't want to be in when I was older. Like, when I was in, middle school, the way that I would have access to alcohol and stuff like that was through like high school kids. And then kind of like as I got, more towards like 8th grade, entering high school, I started to see some of the older kids that I would hang out with, having some of them graduated high school and just like having nothing going for them and not, living a good life. And basically, I guess like that was pretty eye-opening for me, because then I was like, I was like, this is not, these are the guys, like these guys I used to look up to when they were in high school, and I'm like, now they're not all type of people that I look up to. And the people that I look up to weren't engaging in those activities. And that kind of was like, I guess like a wake-up call for me, that I was like, I kind of gotta like get it together here. And I didn't have a plan of how, but I was just like, I gotta figure out something here, because my habits are not good. And I kind of always knew I wanted to be like a college and professional athlete. And obviously, aside from the mental toll, there's a huge physical toll from substance abuse. And so I would say for me, one of the biggest things that helped me change my habits was like physical fitness. I don't know exactly how much the correlation is between physical and mental fitness, but I do think that there's something there, that when you're able to work on yourself physically, you kind of in turn like work on your mind too. And almost like I guess I almost like tried to just become addicted to something else. And that was like working out, fitness. That's why I ended up running in high school and college, because I just like tried to become obsessed with that. And yeah, I just like thought like, what I would just try to think like, what is like someone who abuses alcohol, like someone who's an alcoholic and addicted to smoking, I just would try to think like, what do they do every day, or like what would they do in every situation, and I would just try to do the opposite. And like I said, I just kind of like would try to remove myself from situations that would, I guess, like trigger me to want to drink or smoke. And most of that was like, when I guess when I say to trigger me to do that, I didn't really have like a, like such an itch to drink or smoke, but I had like a desire to be accepted by a certain group of people. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, was to turn that off and to realize that like those people, if they're only the only time I hang out with them is when I'm drunk, then they're not my closest friends. And so I just kind of removed myself from certain groups of people without being, rude to anyone. I just would stop hanging out with those people and try to find my friends that weren't doing that stuff and make sure that I'm spending most of my time with them. And I wouldn't say that there was like one specific moment or one thing I did that kind of changed me. I think it was a combination of all of that. Spending time with the right people, creating better habits that take up my time, which for me, like I said, was like fitness. And excuse me, yeah, I mean, I guess just that stuff, like trying to be around positive people, working out, and finding something else that takes up my time, basically. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to like, I'm probably talking all over the place, but
No, you're fine.
I'm
No,
just trying to think like
this is all exactly
there's
like, this
anything
is super helpful.
yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything I'm missing. Like, I don't know, it's probably a unique situation because yeah, I never really thought about it much before. Like, yeah, that's I think pretty much all I did to like get out of it. It's funny, like I said, I don't really know how I got out of it, and when I look back, I don't know that I was addicted to substances the way that like you traditionally would think of someone when you say that they're addicted, because now I'm 24 years old. I drink now, not much. I drink a couple times a year, but I have no problem now with alcohol. I drink very, very rarely on social occasions with my friends. I don't smoke anymore, but drinking hasn't been a problem for me the way that it was when I was younger. And so I don't know if I was necessarily addicted to the alcohol or if I was addicted to like the environment that was brought on by it, but because I don't crave it now, but I did take a long time off from drinking. I mean, I drank from pretty heavily, more than I have as an adult, from 6th grade to 8th grade, and basically right around like 2015 fall, when I was entering high school, I stopped drinking, and I didn't drink for 4 years until I mean like almost 2020, the next time I drank. And I was pretty nervous too, but I felt like I was, it was a totally different environment the next time I drank. I was just like trying to, have a drink with some of my friends, and I drank, and it was no problem for me. And so, yeah, I mean, that's why I loosely say the term that I was addicted, because I felt like I was, but now that I'm able to drink again, I don't like feel like I'm falling back in to old habits or anything like that. So, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much for sharing. I know we're a little bit over time, Aaron.
I'll start with that.
Is it? Are you? No, no problem. Not at all. Thank you. We love the insight you've given us. Aaron, are you short on time now?
I can stay for a few more minutes to just wrap up. But
Okay.
yeah, thank you for sharing all that, John. It sounds like I think it's a unique situation in that, you were able to kind of do it all on your own without having like a really strong support system, which is a hard thing to do. But I also feel like there are a lot of teens that I've worked with too that a lot of them are addicted to like that environment and like wanting that connection with other people, with older people, wanting to fit in. And I think that ends up being a really big driver, like specifically for teenagers. Um, and so it's, obviously I know a lot about like your running journey, and it's really amazing that like that has become kind of your point of focus and you've had so much success in that. And it's really interesting that that was like your way to cope and your way to get out of it, and now it's become like a really big success in your life. um so I think, with the Summit Lab that we're working with, they're doing a lot of projects talking on like how caregivers interact with substance use and like what support systems look like and what it looks like when you don't have a support system. um so I think that, hearing the other side of it, like what does it look like when you don't have one, is really an interesting perspective as well. But yeah, I just really like appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and sharing your story. I don't know if Nick, you have any other questions.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much. You answered all of our questions perfectly, and even the stuff you gave was amazing. And like Aaron explained, we are working with the Summit Lab. They just do research on substance use, adolescent substance use, and for our upcoming project, we really like this. This opportunity was great to hear your testimony, and we just wanted to know if you would have consent for us to just talk a little bit more about this in our project.
Yeah, definitely. I
Thank
would.
you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to add on quickly to the last thing I said, or kind of like responding to something you said, Aaron, when you were saying like I have a unique situation where I like was able to like change my habits kind of without a support system.
Yeah.
I definitely do have a unique situation, but and I did put a lot of work in for it myself, but I also would say that to some extent I consider myself kind of lucky in that sense, like because there's probably kids I grew up with that might even be better for you to talk to, because I grew up with a lot of kids that didn't change their habits. And I mean, my situation isn't that bad compared to a lot of kids I hung out with when I was younger. I mean, I dealt with substance abuse at that age, but I fixed it. And now, like, no one would know that I ever even went through that unless I tell them. But, countless kids that I grew up with are now 20 something years old, and they're addicted to drugs, or they're, in prison or something like that, and it's like, yeah, they made wrong choices, but it's pretty tough to, always make the right choice at that age. So I kind of think I got lucky almost. Like, yeah, I put the work in to get myself better, but that, I kind of just, I didn't know it was going to work. It just did. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
well, I think definitely, give like credit where credit is due. I think that's something to be really proud of, and that's a difficult, especially at that age. I'm sure it's difficult at any age, but at the young age that you were at. Um, and yeah, I think, the work that the Summit Lab is doing is trying to prevent both the onset or the continuation of substance use. Because I think it is rising in prevalence, and also there's so many different like designer drugs, and there's vapes, and there's jewels, and the access is, it's just so easy to get access.
Yeah.
As a teenager, you can go online, say you're 18, and order a vape.
Yeah,
Like, it's not. And so I think, the work they're trying to do is really like ask the teens, like, what do you need? Like, what is helpful for you? And then like base their research off of that. And I think like for a lot of people, in like when they were younger, that's something that maybe like would have been super helpful, just someone being like, what do you need, like how can we help you? So I think the hope, like,
Yeah.
with our project is just to like spread awareness of like what they're doing, and highlight that this is like important research, and it's super relevant and timely, because a lot of teens and even younger like are dealing with this, and it's a prevalent issue like across the US, but I think specifically like in urban areas. I think you touched upon that point. There's definitely higher rates the reason for that. I'm sure there's a bunch of different ones, but yeah, I think it's a complicated issue, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But I think you touched upon like a lot of really good points, and I'm glad that you're doing so well and like you were able to overcome a really hard thing, and I'm sure it wasn't easy.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I don't know
Thank
if Nick,
you.
you have any last words, but
Um, no, I don't think I do. I think I probably could think of something to say, but I pretty much touched upon everything, I think.
yeah,
So,
I think so too. Well, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Once we like, we'll send you the project and you can take a look at it if you want, or we'll like send you all the edits and stuff. Um,
okay.
but yeah, I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah, and
thank you so
if
much.
you guys need like anything else from me too, I can I'll be happy to help.
Yeah.
And if you ever need to talk to me again, I'll be on time and
No
I can help with
worries.
that.
No worries at all. We appreciate it. I'll definitely reach out and let you know like how the rest of the project goes and stuff and where we end up with all this. But thank you so
Okay.
much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, John.
Of course.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. See you. Have a good night. Bye bye.
You too. Thanks.
Awesome.